What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to review the Callisto Protocol. So I have beaten it, haven't done too much in my life besides playing the Callisto Protocol over the last 2 days, and I want to talk about it. So you saw the title of this video. I will say, okay, I liked this game. I liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it. I would not say I hated it. I'll talk about the performance and technical issues and some of the stuff that people online are saying. However, let me throw this in here. My wife actually made a very, very good point when I finished the game. I would not shut up for about 10 hours, and it took me 10 hours, 19 minutes, somewhere in that range. I've seen people beat it in 7. I've seen people beat it in like 12 or 13. It took me 10 hours, 19 minutes. I did not shut up. I was constantly complaining about the deaths. I was getting frustrated. So just to kind of throw that out there, I still feel in my core that I overall liked the game, or I liked more things about it than I disliked. But it is true, I didn't shut up. And with that being said, I don't like to constantly be frustrated when playing a game. And this game is extremely, extremely frustrating throughout it. So we're going to talk about, bits and pieces of that. Now, I did play it on medium difficulty. When I talked about online, people had said, well, maybe turn it down to easy. I think easy only affects how much damage the enemies will do. It wouldn't really affect how many enemies or their attack patterns or anything. Maybe it would have been easier on easy, but I just felt like, well, I don't know, there's 3 difficulties. Medium is the middle one. Why not try it on that one? All right, so let's talk about this game a little bit. Let's start with some of the positives. This game looks visually incredible. I'd throw in the atmosphere as well. I think they do a lot of really cool things with I guess, different corridors, and the lighting in this game is very, very good. The sound in this game is very good. But I think from a visual perspective, this game looks awesome. Well, and again, I'm playing on PS5, okay? That's probably important to throw out there. This looked like a next-gen game on my PS5. Now, optimized for PS5, whatever, like loading and all that stuff, it really did feel like a next-gen game. With that being said, the technical side of things, I really didn't experience much of anything. I will say towards the very end, there were some weird, like, clipping things. There's one area where I'd walk into, and those, like, bug things that, like, attach to your body, and you have to, tap triangle to get them off. It would attack me, and I would like turn into the wall, and I would kind of clip through the wall. I'd say, if anything, the camera was kind of the issue. When those issues happened, it was more of the camera spinning weird or focusing. It would have kind of like a stroke and do some odd things. That's pretty much what happened. But honestly, like the PC issues that people had seen, and they were disgustingly bad, right? They were atrociously bad, what was going on PC with this game. I didn't experience any of it with the PS5. It ran extremely well. And again, the only issues were a couple towards the end of the game. Nothing that was, I would even say moderately frustrating. Nothing that was even like that. So overall, pretty good experience. Visually solid. The combat, let's talk about the combat. So this is a pro and con. The dodging is tough. It really, now it's tough to talk about. It's also a tough mechanic in general. I will say, I think the actual act of dodging is not a flaw in this game, in my opinion. It takes a long time to get used to it, I will argue. I will say, once you figure out what you're doing, once you can kind of read enemies and really attack patterns, because certain enemies will only attack you certain ways. Some enemies you can dodge left or right, it doesn't matter. And when that happens, you feel pretty okay. It actually all kind of comes together. I think the act of, kind of moving around, right, I think it works. I think it's fun. The issue lies in the mechanics of how they put levels together. So there'll be some times where enemies will like clip over each other, or because when you're attacking an enemy, okay, or you're dodging one enemy, the other one in the AI doesn't really attack you. It's not supposed to. But sometimes it'll get behind you. So you'll be, whacking one with your baton, okay? And you do it, 2-3 times, you'll end your animation. And then that enemy may not attack you, even though the camera and your character is facing that enemy. And then you'll get hit by somebody off the screen, maybe not off the screen, but behind you, to your right, to your left. And it'll feel very like wrong. Like the game will kind of cheat you in that way. And this happens over and over and over. Once you get powerful in this game, I do think it's fun. I really do. I would honestly argue around the halfway point of this game, or when you unlock the shotgun, their version of a shotgun. It gets much better. You feel more powerful. Obviously, as you level up, or I wouldn't even say level up, putting obviously money into your weapons, right? Once you get your stasis arm, whatever their version is even called, which I don't even know, once you get that powerful, once you get your baton powerful, it does feel easier. You can hit them just better overall. You can block a lot better with the arm. You can kind of cheat locations where you pick people up and throw it into the same spiky wall, like over, which I did many times. You can kind of game the system. I would just say, again, the dodging at its core, I think is actually really cool and definitely unique. But when the enemies attack you in some stupid patterns, or some of them do like long-ranged projectiles on you, it can honestly get atrocious. I would argue I died so many times, right? I tweeted this yesterday or 2 days ago. I died easily, not even close, more than Elden Ring or any Dark Souls, Bloodborne, any of them. I've died in this game so much more. I would argue, and I'll have to maybe count it for fun, probably like 150 times. I'm no joke, 150 plus times, I would say, just dying over and over and over and over. And again, it gets frustrating because not every time I felt was my fault. Maybe sometimes it would have been better, or I would have solved the issue if I used different weapons or I played it slightly differently, but sometimes the game is unfair with its enemies. Now, again, I was constantly yelling at the TV, constantly annoying my wife, so was I having fun? I would say for probably half the game, no. When you're dying over and over and over again, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say, oh, I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed beating it. I enjoyed the parts where I felt good about myself, where I could clear an area one try, right? When it was a well-designed area and I went in, did it, or I stealthed my way through it, right? I felt good. I felt really good. But then every other time when you're just dying, no joke, like 20 times, and then you keep coming back, I'm not having fun. I was not having fun. And one thing to talk about with that, the checkpoint / loading in this game, I don't think I've ever seen a game this bad. So let me just throw that out there as a major negative. This game, for checkpoints, okay, so there's one scenario where you walk into an area and you can go left, and it's this long path, and it ends up getting you a gun schematic. Okay, then you come all the way back to like your safe room, and you can go into the online shop, the shop to upgrade your weapons. You'll go there, and then you go to your right. So left was optional, okay, but it gives you some good stuff. Then you go to your right, fight enemies. If you die there, it'll place you at the very beginning before you went left. Okay, so I realized this about 2-3 times in, and I started to get really frustrated. So what did I do? I made a manual save. So the game auto saves, right? So I made a manual save. So I went left, I got the stuff, I handled myself very well, came back to the safe room, manual saved, and then went to the right. So this time, when I died, I expected to go back to the safe room and not have to go left again, okay? Well, what happened? The manual save is just an auto save. It's not actually a manual save at all. It just automatically goes to the last auto save. So when I manually saved, it just put that as the auto save, which was before I went left. So I died, and then I went back to the beginning, and I still had to go left, and I flipped out. And I actually saw this online. People, this is not just a me issue. I did see this online where, yeah, manual saves, they're just auto saves. You can't actually not even game the system. I wasn't trying to like do a manual save right before one enemy or something, stupid. I literally just wanted to not have to go left because it's like 15 minutes before I was I just wanted to avoid losing that time. Which, by the way, 10 hours, right? 10-ish hours is how long I played this game. If you eliminate my deaths and you eliminate the times that happened where I lost like 10 minutes each time over and over again, I'd say this game probably is like an 8-7 hour game. It probably is shorter. If you're good, if you're playing on easy, you probably can get through this game in like 8 hours. So that's important, right? When it's $70 on next gen or current gen consoles, $60, I believe, I'm pretty sure, on last gen. It's important to note that, if you're good at it, or if you play it on easy or whatever, it's not even 10 hours long. And, that's just something to kind of throw out there. So there's that. Combat, and why do I spend so much time talking about combat? It's what you do most of the game, right? You go into an area, they do a couple different scare things, and the horror is there. I would say this game isn't necessarily scary. It's more gory. I do think they know how to do scares, and there were some pretty creepy sections. Again, I think they do some really cool things with lighting and with fog and with different enemies, and sometimes like jump scares, but also sometimes more like in your head kind of stuff. I think they do a pretty solid job. I think they know what they're doing. They just didn't do enough pure horror. And that, again, that's kind of important to throw out there, that this game is more gory than anything. The death animations are nuts. Like, they are legitimately, I don't know how people are monetized on YouTube. They are absolutely nuts. And they're some of the goriest death scene things you've ever seen in any game. So I will give them props for that, but did they kind of pull back on the pure horror of like the tension and atmosphere and instead of that they replaced it with gore? Yeah, I kind of think so. But again, I do think there was tension. There were a couple like hallways or corridors or whatever that I do think were really well done. It was kind of a mixed thing. Story and characters, let's talk about that next. I honestly didn't mind either of them. This was something I saw quite a bit on, in terms of like reviews, right, leading into the game, to kind of just talk about them for a second. The talk about like Jacob is just Jacob, there's nothing to him. I actually kind of liked his character, and I'm kind of noticing this the last few games I played. If you guys remember Evil West, right, that was that cowboys versus vampire thing. A lot of people talked about the story and specifically that main character, which I also believe his name is Jacob, just like this one, and a lot of people didn't like him. They thought he was like too serious, too kind of like one-dimensional. I kind of liked it. I thought it actually fit the tone of the game, and similarly here, I actually liked Jacob. I thought the acting, by the way, the acting throughout the entire thing, Sam Witwer, all these people in general, they did a really, really good job. I believe that. So the acting was good. The characters themselves, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it's like, nobody should be nominated for like the character of the year. We're not talking about Kratos. We're not talking about Amicia in Plague Tale Requiem, which is just a 10 out of 10 kind of character. We're not talking about that. But we're talking about characters that I do think had things to them that were kind of hinted, and then they would get fleshed out a little bit towards the end, and you could go further with it that we'll talk about in a second. But I think honestly overall the characters were fine. I think Jacob as a character was fine, so I would not hold the characters against the game. I don't know if it's a major strength, but it is, I don't know, a positive. It's definitely a thing like on the right side of things. And then also the story, it's simple. It's actually a very simple story. Not too much actually gets done in the story, not to spoil it, but you don't, like, not all that much happens, but it makes sense because it's like you're not supposed to be there. This is kind of non-spoiler. You're not supposed to be there, and you're trying to get off. That's like the whole point of the entire game, and you constantly run into issues, and you run into kind of a deeper thing that's going on. That's the plot, and so, yeah, it is simple because it's kind of supposed to be. You're not supposed to be in the location. You're trying to get away from the location, and things get in the way, and that's the idea. And I think that's fine. I don't think it was anything, again, spectacular. It shouldn't win any awards, but I don't think it necessarily is a negative. The ending, I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending, because of the whole DLC and how there's going to be like story DLC, is a topic of contention, right? It's like, did they end the game annoyingly? The game ends in a way that I wouldn't prefer it ended. I will say that. It is not awful. It's not like egregiously bad where it feels like the game ends and you need to buy the story DLC to like see the final conclusion. It's not that, but it's not amazing. It's not like it's not one of those games that you end and it is an ending and then you could also continue if you wanted to. It's not that. So that's not great. I would honestly put that as a negative, but actually the story does get better as the game goes on. I would say that. It just doesn't necessarily end at the proper place that I would want it to be, but it also does spin off a couple different things that could happen that, we'll talk about in like a spoiler video. I definitely want to talk about the future of this franchise and the DLC, but, for the purposes of this review. So, hey, that's everything. Gameplay pretty darn solid. Very frustrating though at times. Story, characters solid. Music I would say kind of goes in. I'm trying to like nail every element of it. Again, I would say overall I like this game more than I didn't like this game. I was very frustrated kind of constantly throughout it, but I did feel good when I got through it. And I do think you reach a point in this game where it is better, and you do kind of figure out how dodging works, and the weapons suddenly become, again, once you upgrade them enough, and once you get that gosh darn shotgun, the game does start to kind of be, a little bit better, but it doesn't get more forgiving. And I don't want this to come off, and I guess I maybe should have said this in the gameplay part, I don't want it to come off like I'm whining about the I truly hate that, maybe more than anything, online or with these game journalists that literally just suck at games and they complain about the difficulty. But here's the thing, there's a difference between like getting good, right, understanding the game, just literally powering through it. There's a difference between that and the game not being fair, literally the mechanics of the game kind of not working. And I feel like this is a blend of both. It is a very difficult thing to get used to. That dodging is going to take you a couple hours, and then even when you get it, again, depending on the corridor or the enemy types, or there's one thing that definitely did frustrate me, there's mutations. So there's like these really weird, like the thing kind of stuff that comes out of them, and you need to shoot that immediately once it comes out, otherwise they're going to mutate into these super strong enemies that probably are going to kill you, or if they don't kill you, you're going to waste a lot of ammo, and it's going to be quite a battle. And those things can get so annoying because sometimes you'll miss, or you'll feel like you hit it and you missed, or you feel like they don't give you enough time to actually aim and shoot, or the thing will sprout out of the enemy, you'll go to shoot, and then another enemy will hit you, because again, it's sometimes the enemies will leave you alone when you're focused on one. They'll kind of be like, all right, the AI is like, well, you can only do one thing at once, and I actually like that when that happens. Like, let me focus on one enemy at a time. Don't attack me from the side, because then the camera gets nuts. It's hard. If you're looking this way, right, and you're attacking an enemy, and then an enemy comes from over here, it's hard to figure out which way to dodge. And most times you're going to fail. Also, other times, if you dodge too late, you'll do the dodge animation, and you'll still get hit, and you'll still die. And that gets, again, very annoying as the game goes on, and it just happens over and over. So there is a difference, and I don't want to come across as like I'm whining about the difficulty, because I do think it's a blend of hard system, but something you can get good at, but also the game just doesn't operate very well with it. So there you go, $70 on, next gen. That's a tough price to pay. Honestly, like flat out honest, I did like this game more than I didn't, but I would probably say wait for it. Specifically on PC, like also from like a technical side, wait for these patches, but also, I don't know, like 8 to 10 hours, and you're gonna get frustrated, or at least I think most people are gonna get frustrated, and you're paying a lot of money, and that's in the US. I know Canada and other places it's more money. I mean, I get it. So is this a game you need to kind of jump out and get day one immediately? I would honestly say no. And that hurts, because final thing I'll say, I have all the evidence. Go back on my channel. There's like 10 plus videos where I'm nothing but positive about this game. I wanted nothing more than this game to be a Game of the Year contender. In fact, I thought it was going to be a Game of the Year contender going in. And I'm sad to say it's not. It's not a great game. It's not an amazing game. It's a okay, solid, above average, in that kind of realm, and those kind of key words. That's the kind of game this is. And is that worth full price? To some people, it's probably not going to be. In fact, I would probably recommend that it's not going to be. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. And again, there'll be more Callisto videos. I'll talk about the ending and stuff for those that have played it and beaten it, and for spoilers and stuff, okay? Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all on the next one.